Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to Fierce Honest Hearts. I am Heidi Ferguson in the blue dress with, I think Italy behind her is Fidesta Ramsey, and we have Lindsay Mann back as our guest today, this evening on a new moon. So we're really excited to be here. We missed last week, which, I really just wanted to quickly mention how grateful I am that we, in our relationship, and Fidesta in my relationship, that we had this thing built in where if we're not feeling 100% or up to the task to do a recording, we're just going to call it and take care of ourselves. And and I just feel like it's important to model self-care and what that really means to an individual and to a business partnership, friendship, whatever. And that I hope you're practicing that too. So I'm going to start with a check-in. And okay, so it's going to come up where there's no denying it. And at least I know it's going to come up in my check-in. And that is that, when I heard the overturn of Roe v. Wade on Friday, I had a million mixed emotions. I was angry, I was crying, I was all these things. And I chose to deal with it in a way that worked for me, which was to really ground myself and to ask myself, okay, in this moment, Heidi Ferguson, what's important? What's important to you in this moment? What can you do? What kind of energy can I put out there to those who this might have a different impact on? Like for me, I'm not directly impacted because I'm 58. I've gone through menopause. I'm not going to be bearing any children, but it does affect people that are in my life. So what can I do? How can I support? And that's where I chose to put my energy. And then over the course of the weekend, I had some time to do a little bit more pondering and thinking about it, and got some support earlier today from Lindsay around it in the records, and that was really helpful. And so I will say, for me, it feels less. It's still daunting. It just doesn't feel like I'm overwhelmed with it in my life. And I am feeling a little bit lighter. I'm not like gonna go out and party, but I am feeling lighter about it. And still am aware of the seriousness of and the gravity of this thing, this issue. And I also want to say, in the name of friendship and relationship, how grateful I am to be here with the two of you, that we are here to support one another no matter what, in every context, in every circumstance, and how much that really means to me, to have these relationships, to have the energy that I've taken to cultivate. And it's not just one-sided, it's all-sided. And so grateful to myself that I put in the work, and grateful to each of you, to collectively and separately, that you've put in the work. So yeah, I think that as sisters, that's one of the things we can do right now, is to love and support, and and really be there for each other. Thank you for listening. That's my little check-in. So I don't know who wants to share next, but doesn't matter. I'd love to hear whatever you had to say.
Lindsay, I would love to hear you check in if you don't mind going ahead of me.
Well, thank you both so much for having me. It's always such a treat to be here with you, especially when I get to see you multiple times in a day. I've got, I guess, a big check-in, like certainly this terrifying national decision, and also some personal trials and tribulations and triumphs. And it's always fascinating to see these micro and macro commonalities in the importance of speaking up for yourself, and also in the face of some governing oppressive decision or other voice. And it has been very interesting to see this play of like oppressive patriarchal stuff come up in my personal life at the same time as this massive oppressive patriarchal thing, you know, in our world and all of our worlds right now. And it also has been very interesting to watch, you know, again, this other level of how we are being triggered and traumatized, how our mental, physical, and emotional wellness is being attacked. And just this overall disregard and disrespect for humanity and our own abilities to make decisions that are best for our bodies, that people feel that they need to impose themselves and their beliefs and whatever on other people. And like watching that reaction and watching this get bigger and bigger and uglier. And we keep like, how much more can we take, right? And when I specifically think about Roe v. Wade, one of the first things I started thinking about, like just even this past couple of years, and I mentioned this to Heidi earlier, I'm like, I feel like everything I learned as like these great accomplishments in history in my history books in school growing up are going backwards. And you're like, where we didn't go anywhere. Like we have all these historical moments in history that we've read, and now it's all going back. And some of the things have been under the surface, and it's just like, what universe are we living in? Things feel very inhumane. At the same time, you do see the communities standing up for each other and trying their best to figure this out as fast as possible. How can we do this? How can we take care of each other? I guess I personally, I don't like, I am pro-choice. I think everybody should have the right to decide what's best for their body, and only you know what's good for your body, right? When I started thinking about it, even way before this, the people that I have known who have had to have abortions or have chosen to have abortions because it was not the right time, they were in high school, they were too young, right? Like the fact that they had the ability to do that growing up in New York. And then I have a loved one, I just couldn't stop thinking about this story. I have a loved one who was having a mental health crisis and was living in Texas. And this was a few years ago. And they had to check themselves into a hospital because they were feeling suicidal, depressed and suicidal. And so they invested all this money to get into this program to help them with their mental health. And while they were getting tested to see what medications they can go on, doing blood tests, they found out they were pregnant. The first time being pregnant. This is someone in Texas. And if you can believe it, someone who's at the end of their rope, coming in for help, she got the abortion, but they made her hear the heartbeat. And I just think about, why do people think that this is ever an easy decision? Like so many of the women who have to make this decision are suffering and they're sad. And like, it's just a crime. And I understand the other perspective, the religious belief that this is life and you're killing an innocent life. Like I can understand both perspectives, but don't ever think that it's an easy decision, you know? So my heart goes out to every woman, everyone who loves a woman, and everyone who supports a woman and wants this to go in our favor and support us. So that is my check-in, and I just pray for all of us to be able to take care of each other and to figure this out one way or another. I don't think this small population of people who are trying to take control of a larger population, I don't believe that oh, I can't even I don't know. I want to believe that that can't be. I want to believe that that can't be. So that is my check-in.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Lindsay, thank
Thank
you for sharing and verbalizing, I think, something that might be on the hearts of many men and women and children right now around how anyone can think it's some easy, you know, aloof choice. And I think that's the narrative that we have to dismantle. I said this to Heidi, you know, because I was off the grid. So the news for me came in Tuesday morning as I integrated into daily life. And I started with shock. Like, I was just like, what? This, I don't understand, right? Like, and, you know, Glennon Doyle said it best. She was like, even though we saw this coming, it's no less chilling, right? It's no less enraging because I continue to feel like women are hated on the planet. And that so much is coming from that woman hate energy. That could be my projection coming from Afghanistan. Like, it just feels too American Taliban for me personally, the Christian nationalism, and no shade at Christians, but this form of it, this policing through their values and morals to others, that quite it doesn't sit well with me. Actually pisses me off. And then to your point, I don't think I've reached that place. I know it's in me that you just showed. Like, I know it's in there, and it might have too much grief right now to show up. Honestly, I'm saying that vulnerably because I'm like, I even told Richard, I was like, I probably will have feelings about this later, but right now I'm a little numb. And I have loved ones, you know, who had to make the choice because a baby was ectopic and they would have bled to death, right? Or because the baby had died already. And in order to preserve the health and the healing of the uterus so a baby could happen again, had to make that difficult choice with their doctor. So I'm for those people, right? Of course, if I really lean back, I wish our nation like took care of mothers so that more pregnant women felt they had the funds, the mental wellness, the emotional wellness, the support systems to bring that baby to term. But like, we also have a systemic issue here of our country as patriarchal and as evolved as it may think it is, does not take care of mothers, really. So to force motherhood on people when you have a systemic deficiency, that's where my beef is right now. And it's too fucking nuanced to be pro-life and pro-choice. It's too nuanced, right? Like, there was a great meme, and I'll try to share it at some point on my Instagram, that was like, I'm for so-and-so who has this situation. I'm for this person who has this situation. And there was at least 12 situations there that had nothing to do with a casual, you know, this as a form of birth control, which I think is just the grossest narrative that's out there. And there's always going to be, I said this to Heidi, you know, a percentage of people who are going to misuse glue, who are going to misuse cough syrup, who are going to misuse abortion. I get it. And I do have that compassionate comprehension for those who feel at a feral level, at a fervent level, that they're doing the right thing. I get it. But there's also this sector of people, they're shady as shit. And that it's like, just come out and say you hate women. Just come out and say you want to have power over. Like, you know, it's too evident, in my opinion. And lastly, I see the good people of the world stepping up. You know, I've seen friends with videos in Argentina at the US Embassy, friends who are marching on the streets, friends who are lawyers and who are putting their gifts towards a saner option for people, for women and girls. I want to include girls there, unfortunately. So there is that too to be considered. And I'm very protective of that piece. So I guess we just dove right in, huh?
Well, we didn't beat around the bush. Not that we ever do. And I don't know that there's a way to kind of, to use your metaphor, gentle on-ramp, gently on-ramp. I don't think there's a way to approach this any other way but right on and really directly. So I know that you've all read a lot of different posts, et cetera, and I too have had a loved one who, she's had two ectopic pregnancies. That's a hard word to say, and I remember after the first one, she verbally shared the experience with me, and I was like, first of all, I had never heard of the term. I don't think I had heard of it. But then when she described to me what happens, like the fact that the egg is outside of the uterus, I'm like, what? Like, how does that happen, right? Like, it's just one of those things that happens. And I remember she said to me, Heidi, she's like, I would not be able to do this legally, and I probably would have bled out had it not been for the fact that in this state, abortions are legal. And I'm like, right? And so I also want to reiterate that, yes, there may be some people, some women using it as birth control, but I think the other is more common, because it seems as if the powers that be that have overturned this, that's the only thing they're looking at least in my opinion, right? Like, that's what it seems like. And so I'm thinking to myself, if you're only thinking about this wedge of the pie and you've got the rest of the pie, where's your humanity? And also, even if we might think this doesn't affect me, it's not affecting me directly because I'm not married to someone who, I don't have a sister, whatever, it doesn't. We're all connected and it doesn't matter how we're connected. The bottom line is that we're connected. And I think that at the end of the day, if we can remember that, just that one really simple, basic fact, we might think about this differently. And I feel like as we're doing this podcast, we're preaching to our choir, our people, and that's okay. But for those who may not agree with abortion, wherever you are on that side, I want you to really hear us and know that this isn't just simply about ending the life of an unborn child. It's not that. It's so much more. It's a lot deeper. It's a lot more painful for the person involved who, had to make that choice. Like, that is mind-blowing in and of itself to me. So not only to make the choice, okay, do I keep and go through the 9 months not knowing what my health will be? Like, that's also a mystery, right? And then, or do I have an abortion and go on with my life and then potentially deal with the depression and the grief and the mental anguish that I know that I will have to deal with after knowing that it just feels like, so much is put on women. And we're effing tired of it. We're so tired. And yet we get up the next day and we do it. Pardon me, I have to mute myself.
Thanks for naming that, Heidi. Yes, I agree. And I'm just tired of the second-class citizenship that women seem to get by those in governance who have rarely a real pulse or sense of women. And then something you said around the haunting quality of that choice. That's kind of what the enormity of it, where that could be haunting, and how that's a personal choice. Again, I would love that it be a safe and rare thing that happens, right? Safe as in legal, rare as in we have systems in place to really help women have that be the last resort, like totally. And, you know, even a miscarriage, which last I read was like 1 in 4 pregnancies, right? Like, and not, it could be very early on, right? It could end up seeming like a moon time, whatever. That 1 in 4 pregnancies, just in laws of nature, ends up just not taking, right? And the concern I feel for women right now and girls is that if you're already going through the trauma of a miscarriage, like you have just gotten the news that you've lost your baby, that you maybe are in mama mode, or like you had no idea and now you're also wrestling with you didn't know and it's already gone kind of a situation. Maybe there's relief there, maybe there's not. When our government becomes this police state that says, we will investigate your body when you miscarry. And if we, however you consider foul play, I don't know how you can tell that in a miscarriage. If we consider it there to be foul play, you are now a criminal suspect in the system. That is terrifying to me, not just from the level of like how unsafe it already is to be a woman in this country, harassment and all the crap that goes on and exposes us to unsafe situations, right? Due to just how people have been conditioned. But this added piece that while you are actually grieving, you're also a murder suspect. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is why I can't compute it all. Like, I can't even access the feelings outside of like rage at this moment. Yeah. So I'm gonna stay there and leave it there.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, I hear you in that. And I wanna, you know, I wanna add that earlier I talked a little bit about the humanity of it. And so as I go further with that, I wanna say that whether or not we admit it, we all know someone who has had to make that choice. We know at least one person. And I'm talking collectively to the world when I say these words. And so and so the question that kind of, you know, that goes through my mind is with that information, knowing that everyone knows someone, at least one person, whenever it was that they made that decision, did we shame them? How did we treat them? How did we respond to when they shared that with us, right? And I'm hoping that for those who have received this news from another person, from a loved one or whatever, have had open arms and said, you know what? I'm really sorry that you had to make that decision, or that sounds really hard, and I'm here for you. Because, you know, I've imagined myself in that situation, and I think, oh my God, what would I do? Because I don't know what I would do. I feel like that I've made a lot of hard decisions in my life, but I feel like that's the one that would drive me to madness. I really believe that. And so when I think about the women who've, like your loved one, Lindsay, that you talked about, when you were sharing at the beginning, and I thought, yes, I can totally relate to that, because I don't know another decision that is that hard to make. I mean, that hard to make, with the exception of a mother who does take carries her child full term. It is birth, and then makes a decision to give it up for adoption, because she can't afford to raise another child. What the hell? What are we doing? So this whole thing is very, very layered. It's like I said before, it's deep, and we're not going to solve it in an hour. Not that that's what we're trying to do, but so anyway, I guess what I want to offer is, for those who are listening, if you feel like you want to share something or private message one of us, that's okay too. Share your story. I want to offer that this is a safe place to do it. We are not experts. We just simply have huge Care Bear hearts that love on people, and especially women and girls, and those who, I want to say, as a white woman, I feel my privilege. And so there are those that don't look like me and do not have the privilege. So I just want to make that offer as well. Reach out, because I'm really feeling it deeply.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too, people who might be on, quote unquote, the other side, right? And your beliefs and your values, like, that's welcome too, as long as we're having a respectful dialogue about what's going on in our hearts. I'm open to that, right? I'm open to learning, and I'm also open to all of us having some compassionate comprehension for those we disagree with. Because maybe we can learn from each other. And this is not to convert each other, but to learn from, to take in and to understand. Because I can on some level understand, as you said, Lindsay, someone so desperately focused on saving lives and thinking this is the way, right? This is the way at this point to do that. And I continue to look at those lists of different kinds of reasons why women would need to do this. That's not the, sort of the flaky, I'm just using it for birth control, but like health's in jeopardy, they're leaving an abusive relationship, and that is not something that they can currently deal with, or mental health is an issue, or the baby doesn't even have, life-giving organs developed. So like that baby, what are you going to do? Just have to wait in the womb? Like, that's unkind. That's not pro-life to me, to let a mother suffer knowing that that's happening and not completing the process so that they can grieve and move forward, right? Yeah, Lindsay, I'd love to hear what you're vibing.
Yeah, I know. I agree. We could talk about this for a long time, but it's interesting. It's like I can't remember who I was listening to the other day saying that and again, like, this was just the words pro-life, right? Pro-life. And it's like, yeah, but if someone cannot provide the quality of life for that life, and if we do not live in a society that actually supports life, because they're like, okay, you're cutting the funding for daycare, you're cutting the funding, for all these different things that require us to then, okay, it's like they were saying that, like, okay, so you're for the life from fetus to birth, but then when the baby is actually born, you don't give a shit about its life. And that I really was just like for the whole spectrum of why we might not, I just think it's sick and cruel that anybody thinks that they can tell anybody what to do with their bodies and their life, because we are so layered, because it's never that simple, because it's always very complex and it always runs that deep, those types of decisions. So the fact that anybody thinks that they can tell anybody what's best for them is like mind-boggling. Stay out of everybody's business, you know, give people the care that they need. And again, you know, I don't know, we could keep talking, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's bringing up something for me. Thank you for naming that, Lindsay, around, you know, for those who have had to choose end of life, and I'm talking like in the hospital, loved one, the profound, enormous burden of, right? And sometimes we're lucky that someone has a will and testament or has a, you know, a DNR, has something in place, so we're not having to make that decision. And sometimes we're not that fortunate. And that for people who, like, I'm just thinking of men, right? Or people who might just like, I can't quite relate, I can't quite grasp all of this because it's not necessarily something I ever have to deal with. Or I have something else to say about that. But first and foremost, perhaps you can think about something similar, like how nuanced the choice is to take someone you love off life support, right? Or not, or let them sit there for X amount of time and suffer. Like, I have questions around, you know, how we could ever expect to understand someone else's choices, right? And I have beef with policing each other. I really do. I don't find that to be an appropriate use of energy. So on the other end, what was the thing I said I was going to come back to? Oh, men. This isn't just a women's issue. It's not, because the amount of forced parenting that will come up for women, yes, for sure. But the economy of it, the cost of it, the time and energy of it is also going to fall on the men. So I want to remind men this does impact you, even if you're a degree separated. And then I'm really, really sickened by the fact that, like, a woman, obviously it takes a man and a woman to create a baby, but a woman could now be criminalized. Like, that just feels sinister on some level to me, like planned sinister. And I also just think the good people of this world aren't going to stand for it. So it just has me thinking, do we really need Supreme Court justices in perpetuity? Like, this might dislodge some other dysfunctions in our system. So I'm hopeful glance, but genuinely concerned at the same time. And I'm holding, just because I was the timekeeper, we have about 22 minutes. If we want to do Akashic, if we want to pivot, and obviously if there's anything else you two want to add.
I'd like to pivot. I mean, I feel like we could talk about this topic for a long time, but I think we've all kind of said, you know, what's important to say right now. And I'd like to pivot, into the new moon and what that might mean to us, what, you know, hopes and dreams and what we might be manifesting in the new moon. Do we want to open the records on that, or I'm okay with whatever. I'm kind of freewheeling it over here.
We do both. Like, could we open the records, get some headlines, and then maybe close out with sharing our own?
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah. So would you just prefer me to jump right in, open the records on the new moon in Cancer 2022, and you have start thinking of questions while I do that? Okay. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know the new moon in Cancer 2022 in the light of the Akashic records. To see the new moon in Cancer in 2022 through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the new moon in Cancer in 2022 have for it. The records are now open. So before we begin, the reason I was getting kind of tripped up is because this visual was coming so strong. And they gave me the word radar. And it was like I was looking at this radar screen. And you know, you get like the boop, 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 right? There's this like dead center, boop, boop, and there's like this focused right on this one thing, and maybe it's what we've been talking about, right? There's this radar, so something's on our radar, and then that kind of this shape that was zeroed in on it kind of turned into an eye, and then they were like zero in. So we'll see how that might come back around and have more information. But I'm curious to see what you guys might have questions about for the new moon.
So my first question is, when we have something like what we've been talking about that's happened in the world, I'm always aware of there's something else, because that draws our attention, it distracts us. So what is it that our attention is being pulled away from that could be even more impactful, that we either don't know anything about, or it's just right under the surface and we're not ready to go there? Yeah, so that's my question.
They're saying missing files. And then they just showed a judge with a, what is it, the gavel? What? They're saying missing files. There's an interaction, and there's missing files about something. That was just really big, but also interaction. Let me see. Missing files. I'm just repeating that. So it's almost like there's this big chaos outside of a courtroom while someone's scrambling around files inside a courtroom. Someone's scrambling while everybody's outside. That's what I'm seeing.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Does this have anything to do with January 6th? Hearing?
Oh, I just felt like I want to throw up a little bit.
I do too.
Yeah. They're saying media outlets focused on the biggest news of the day. But they're like, of a day. News of a day, news of a day. Like, I'm getting like traumatized. Like how bigger it is, like how much bigger it is. It's almost like there's like, it's like someone threw a bomb outside and everyone's scrambling to look at that bomb while someone's scrambling inside to mess around with papers. Like mixing them up. Ugh.
So when you say how big it is, so in the distraction, there's another distraction and another, like it's just, what I'm hearing, I think what you're saying in so many words is that there's so many, they're doing their best to distract us in as many ways as they can. So then it becomes chaos. Like in the chaos, there's more chaos.
They're like rolling film. There's like rolling film. There's like film rolls. I'm like seeing like a projector, like I'm in the back. Oh, I'm sitting in the back of a movie theater with the projector. Like I'm the person running the wheel of what's projected on the screen. That's what they're showing me. Oh, this is weird. So I'm like, there's a movie theater and there's people in the audience watching the screen. And there's something about who's the person running the film, who's the person sliding slides into the projector. There's something about that. And they're just like media outlets. There's this, they're saying the control room, the control room. And then they're just showing the film. And it's like, I'm putting in, and they're even saying previews. And then they're like main attraction. So it's like, it's almost like, I'm even getting like subliminal. It's like, you know, when you see the screen and like there's a flash of something by accident, I'm almost getting like, you get these flashes of something. And it's almost like, oh, here's a preview of a movie coming out in July. And then boom, the movie's out. So I'm getting like, there's like the threatened. It's like, here's the threat. And then boom, here it is. Watch that. And I'm getting blockbuster. Oh, so sick. And I want to vomit.
And not unsurprising, right?
I think you're muted. Oh, you're back. You're back. No.
Yeah, I said so, and not unsurprising. So I have a question, not entirely related, but I think right in these times, and I think of the new moon and Cancer being like feelings and our ability to have empathy and be intuitive and all these things. Where do we have the most leverage to dismantle the patriarchy?
So they just showed me like women and a woman like rolling around on the ground crying and like holding her body, cuddling, like rocking herself, soothing herself, right? And I'm seeing all these women rolling around on the ground soothing themselves, right? Something's happened, they're all soothing themselves. And then all of a sudden they get up and they're like, so there is the importance of us mothering and loving and caring for ourselves in this Cancer new moon season. But I'm just like, I'm seeing that once that we have gained our composure, I'm getting, and like, they're kind of saying like, healed it a bit, the rage, the anger, I'm just getting like fierce womanhood, like claws out. I'm actually getting claws in, like what this is doing to the female population. And as we've become more and more empowered and more in tune with our intuition and our power, our energy, our healing, I'm even getting all this like kind of like spiritual, like witchcrafty stuff. It's like, we've come to realize how powerful we are. And they're kind of like witch hunters. Oh, so this is like, so we're reliving a cycle of that like oppressiveness of it. And it's like, there's almost like this coming back around of just like women in their power. And it's like, what are we going to do now, guys? Like, I'm getting like these abilities that we have, this power that we have. And like, I'm just getting like how you can use it for the better. And they're kind of like, because women will do that. It might be vicious, it might be destructive, but it's for the greater good of the whole. Mama Earth, Gaia, they're showing us. They're kind of like, let us get our claws in and rip, let us be destructive. Because it's almost like we're going to shred things, burn it all down, and rebuild beautifully. They're kind of saying like care, community, that cancering, that motherhood, that, even that, like, they're even saying like that kind of the tribal. I'm seeing like women in tribes. That's what they're showing me.
I love it. I love hearing about like the feminine rage and like the actual value of that. Protecting what is sacred, right? Being like, not on my watch, like no fucking way. And could you check in around, because I think my hypothesis is only boys are really afraid of women. So is there a check-in here around the stunted boyhood that's kind of running the show?
They went, little boys who are scared of women become grown men who are terrified of women. And I'm getting that the terror, the way that we're seeing it, is the oppression. So I'm almost seeing like a man shaking, like a boy shaking, and like their way of reacting to their fear is to be violent and attack first, because they're terrified of the attack too. But I'm getting that there's this like belief system and this dialogue that men are more powerful, men are stronger, men can hurt women. And there's something about, yes, but ... They're kind of like the initial fear like lives inside of men. And I'm getting like the sense of like having an abusive mother, having an abusive childhood with a young woman, maybe as someone on the playground. Like there's something about being terrorized by a woman, and that they're like, oh, well, when I get older, like I'm going to beat you. Right. And how that plays out. So I'm just getting, they're like kind of seeing like these like abused children dynamics that are happening on both sides and in different ways. It's like the abused and the abuser. Like this is what's coming out right now. The oppressed and the oppressed, the oppressor, abused, power struggles, violence. They're saying inner violence. And it's like, how are we going to express that? They're like, smart, be smart, intelligent with your intelligence.
So as women, what can we do to counteract? Because, you know, when you're sharing all this, and I immediately was like, wow, that's another way to divide. Like there's like in that there's some division energy in that. So I'm like, so before that happens, I mean, I get that it's probably already there in some aspect, but before it gets out of the divisiveness gets out, I'm going to use the term out of control. What can we as women do to rein it in a little bit so that it doesn't turn into that?
This was the radar. So they're showing like women like laying horizontally, like on the ground, like doing all these funny movements on the ground. And it was a little bit of a lay it down. And there's almost like these like red lasers above them. So they're low. So it's something about laying low, but like under these lasers, all these women are like coming together and like, come here. Like, I love you so much. I love you so much. Come here. And they're just like coddling each other, like cuddling with each other and loving each other. And like, are you okay? Come here. And they're smiling. And so there's this sense of just like women coming together and just loving the shit out of each other and taking care of each other under the radar, like under the lasers, under the radar. And it's almost like, even though they're like low, it's kind of like undetectable. There's almost like this revolution of like women just loving and nurturing each other and taking care of each other. And it's almost like sneaking each other around to get the care they need. But it's like, it's under the radar. It's not this big fight, because what I'm getting, and I know this is tricky right now, right? The protests, it's very important. But what I'm getting is like that anger, that violence is going to be met with more anger and more violence and more oppression, as opposed to just under the radar helping each other out. Like, I'm even getting like the revolution will not be televised. It shouldn't be. Just get it done. And I'm seeing like over like borders, they're even showing like the Underground Railroad, and showing people like sneaking people into places and caring for each other like under the radar. But they're saying it's like a women's revolution. And they're saying men are involved. Like men are involved in this, but that there's something about, instead of standing up and being like super seen and heard where there's more danger, it's more, we're all just kind of like, come here, I love you, like I'm gonna take care of you, come here, come here, come here. Oh, I know this person over here, come over there, go over there, go over there. And it's just, there's just this so much love under the radar. There's so much nurturing and nourishment and love under the radar. So they're kind of like, please don't forget that. And they're also saying, don't forget to do that.
Mm.
It's interesting that it's still got this oppressive, it's still oppressed, right? Still under, we're still being held down, but it's almost like we adapt and we're now like laying horizontally and like flipping around and like scooching this way and scooching that way. And we're actually like happy kind of sneaking around because we're able to love each other and care. Oh, it does not feel right. I don't know. This is weird.
It might just be like the moment we're in, because I'm like, oh, that sucks. And at the end of the day, that can't be the sustainable place.
I know.
And I guess my question is, because I don't want men left behind. I think the good men of the world both need to be nurtured, but also need to be showing up. So anything around what men can be doing or what we can do to nurture men alongside, so that they're good men in the world.
I don't know what this means, but they keep showing like a man standing up and like him being cut at his like ankles and coming down. So I'm like, what does this symbolize? What does this feel like? It's like there's a good man in front of me. Like I'm seeing this example of a good man, and it's like he's cut. It's almost like in order for a man to really understand why this is important and what this means, they have to feel it. Like they have to feel it and come down. And it's almost like this idea of like, will they ever actually be able to understand? Like the level of understanding is that you have to have experienced it. You have to feel it, that empathy. They need to feel empathy in order to feel energetically what the woman is suffering through. And I feel like there's this wall where people don't feel empathy. And so if they can not be in a woman's body and not be in a woman's mind in this decision making, they actually can't ever understand that. They have to be like cut down at the ankles and drop down like this. That's the only way I can kind of describe what I'm seeing. It's weird, but he's almost like standing on his ankles. He's not standing on his feet. So I don't know if you guys can interpret what that is, but that's what they keep showing.
That's wild. I just wonder if men don't feel whole. That's one interpretation.
Oh, they just said many don't feel anything. They said many don't feel anything, choose not to feel anything. And so that's why there's this like so hard for them to understand.
So what came up for me when you were describing the cutting off of the ankles is there's like an ungroundedness. So if someone's not grounded in themselves, how can we expect them? How can they feel? How can they empathize? Right? So yeah, like how can they even begin to imagine what someone else is experiencing?
Yeah, so they just kind of said, cut them down to size.
That's what they're doing.
Cut them down to size. I'll be thinking about that and processing some of that for a bit.
Yeah.
And would you like me to close?
was gonna say, yeah, to honor time, to at least begin closing. And I guess if there's like a tiny morsel for
Yeah,
like
I'll see if there's
a
like,
normal person on the new moon.
I know, right? Okay, what's the most important message? We're going into all this. I mean, that's the reality, right? What's the most important message that the collective needs to know about this new moon in Cancer in 2022? I'm just getting like freedoms, liberation, and it's like I'm sorry, it's kind of heavy, but it's like I'm seeing like almost like a bar or a wire like in front of me, and I'm getting like barbed wire, and it's like looking through the barbed wire. And then there's something about freedom and liberation. There's this barbed wire. Oh, I'm kind of getting like all of these things, these institutions putting us in it's almost like we're all in jail. And we're on the inside of the fence and we're looking, they're barbed wire. And I'm getting that we're seeing the world, but we feel like we're enslaved. So I'm just getting a sense with this new moon, I'm getting like, how do you get to freedom? Like, how do you get to liberation? And they're also saying, is this barbed wire and is this fence and is this bar an illusion? Because they just showed it fade away. So that was the message.
Thank you.
Just gonna close real fast. We'd like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the Lords for the Akashic. Amen. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was powerful and obviously confronting, right?
Confronting.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I want to honor your time too, because you've got.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you want to share a quick new moon intentions? Something that we want to lay out there?
This is a small one for me. It's a simple one, but it's going to be a big needle mover in my life, is to put all the yummies into my calendar before my work. So like not leaving myself to be the last thing cared for in the day. Yeah, that feels small and like super important.
Thank you. Heidi?
Huh. Yeah, let's see. So to continue believing in myself and that the information, I don't need others to validate me. I really do believe, I mean, although sometimes I struggle with that, but for the most part, I believe that what I'm doing for myself and for my people is the right thing. I'm following the right path. I'm listening to who I need to be listening to. Yeah, then that feels really important and rich. What about you, Lindsay?
Gosh. My intentions. Oof. So tough. There's so many things I want, like in the world and personally and all that. I want to set the seed of where there is reciprocity and mutualism in my work, where the efforts I put out in my work come back to support me just the same. the same effort, energy that I'm putting out can come back to support me so that I can keep doing this.
I hear some like receptivity and allowing in there too.
What was that?
I hear some receptivity and allowing in there too.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, so much. That was intense and important, and just speaks volumes to the safety we have with each other to go there. Thank you. It felt really nourishing and healing for me.
Yeah.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you for being here, Lindsay. So much love to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay.
Be
And thank you
well.
to our audience.
So we have about 3 minutes to pivot and quickly talk about authentic relating.
Oh yeah, Lindsay, do you need to drop? Because I'm caring for your time.
Sure. Yeah. If you guys want to continue, I can.
Okay.
Thank you. So
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Yes, sorry, I've got so much sun coming through. Like, oh, what's happening? Yeah, let's do it. Let's pivot.
Yeah. Okay. So on in August 10th, I think we're going to start. So Vanessa and I have this program called Authentic Relating, even especially when it's hard. And we are going to offer it to the bigger part of humanity. And we're going to cap it at 8 people. We're going to cap it at 8 people. It's going to be an 8-week intensive, once a week for 8 weeks. And we'll be talking a little bit more about it, but it is to equip yourselves with how to do conflict resolution, how to relate better, how to listen better. Like there are just so many facets within this program that I don't even know we've really talked about. I mean, we have talked about it, but you know, to have it in front of me, I don't have all of it. But yeah, it's and you know, speaking from experience, of our own experience and what that has been like for us as friends, as business partners. Yeah, it's been really, I will speak for myself. It has been a privilege and a real gift to learn it, and now to be teaching and still working on it, because I'm not perfect. It's an ongoing process. Yeah.
Yeah, same, totally. And that's to bust any myth that it's not going to be a lifelong journey, right? And for me, I love teaching us the fundamentals of how we're wired. Like, I kind of don't understand how that wasn't part of our schooling, right? There's biology, sure. I remember us having to like dissect things, but there wasn't this place that was like, this is your biology. This is your nervous system. This is how you're wired. This is what you're wired to do under stress. This is the counter instinctual move you will need to make if you want healthy relationships, right? So I can certainly geek out on the side that's like, because we're humans, because we're wired a certain way, this is why our society functions the way it does, or dysfunctions at times the way it does. And whether it's needs, whether it's boundaries, whether it's knowing your attachment style or the conflict style, or it's about self-awareness in relationships. And the more relational self-awareness we can have, the more high functioning we can be in our relationships. And that means the more trust and intimacy and even strength and support can be found in those relationships. And the last Harvard study said the greatest indicator of health span, of longevity and health span, is not just the quantity of relationships, because that really never mattered, but the quality, the depth, the support that we have in our relationship. So it's tied to mental health and emotional health and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're excited. It's called Authentic Relating, especially when it's hard. starting August 10th. It'll be 12 p.m. EST, Eastern Time. And we'll be letting you all know more about it in the coming weeks and getting you an invite. So just wanted to like name it here. I think first place we're naming it. And really just excited to also keep it intimate, keep it small, keep it highly customized to the people there. And you might get some coaching there too around exactly what it is you're struggling with. So yeah, equipped and empowered to do relationships in a just beautiful new way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you. And thank you, audience, for listening and being with us and supporting us and believing in us. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.